How you doing, folks? In the previous video I introduced you to this Mazda MX-5 that's on the ramp behind me here, and we got stuck into it a little bit and got the front brakes removed and assessed a few things. So now we're going to continue and we are going to get stuck into the front suspension, and I'll show you what I've actually done off camera as well. So just looking at the driver's side here, you can see I have the suspension strut removed. That's simply because of the fact that the spring was broken, and I just took it out so that I can get it repaired and I can assess what I actually need as far as parts are concerned. In order to get it out, the spring was kind of wrapped around the upper wishbone here, so I had to take the bolt out of the upper wishbone as well, which went through here. Nothing major. And the other thing I did is I stripped down the brake calipers, so we now know what we need for them as well. So my plan today is basically I'm going to strip off everything else from the front suspension on this car, because what I want to do is I want to assess it and I want to paint it, and we have a lot of new parts to fit anyway, so having everything off means that, you know, we can just start reassembling with new parts as and where necessary. So let's get the rest of that upper wishbone off. First of all, starting with undoing the top ball joint. I have new ball joints for it ordered, and I've also new wheel bearings and stuff like that as well, so they will all be getting replaced. Anybody who says doing that with a hammer instead of a ball joint splitter is talking through their spout. Well, let's have a look and see what the ball joint is like anyway. The rubber is split on it, but other than that, it's probably actually not all that bad. That said, doing the kind of due diligence sort of thing means we're removing that anyway. All right, there's the hub off. So now we have our hub off, we have our upper wishbone off, and brakes disassembled. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take off the disconnect the anti-roll bar drop link and take out the pinch bolts there. But before I take out the bolts that go down here, we need to mark everything up, because that's how you would adjust the camber angle on this car. So we'll get a center punch and we'll just mark little spots on the offset washers. I'll show you now in a second. I'll be honest with you, things are, I shouldn't say this because I'm going to jinx myself, but things are actually coming apart relatively easy on this car so far. Where the hell did that go? Found it. All right. New AORB bushings and everything are ordered for this as well, but at the moment I need to disconnect it anyway. I'm just putting all the bolts and the bolts and nuts and everything back in the holes so that I know where to go. I'll just take this bolt out now while it's held on the car, because I knew this was going to be a fighter. Breaker bar. That's the older style Ryobi impact gun. There's a newer one that has brushless and apparently is a lot better. I may invest. Oh, Jesus, that is tight. Right. There we go. Now let's see. Happy days. Another bolt there needs to be removed as well, so we'll get that now too. There we go. Lower ball joint removed. I'm going to just put the bolt in there, at least I know where it is. And don't worry, I'll be cleaning up all of these bolts and greasing them as I'm putting them back in and everything as well, so everything will be done right. But for the moment we just need to make sure everything is put in the right place for safekeeping. That anti-roll bar, I'm actually going to disconnect it at the other end as well, so at least that way then we can hinge it up out of the way. Just taking the drop link off, it's just as handy. I actually do have it disconnected at the other end, but because the suspension strut is still on that side, it doesn't actually want to hinge up because the upper wishbone's in the way. Okay, so looking here at the lower wishbone mounting points, you can see that there is an eccentric washer here, okay? Now that eccentric washer is what you would use in order to adjust the camber. Now that one there is up and the other one is down. Now I would have said that they should probably both be the same way, but especially what with the fact that they are on the back. So maybe it's a case where these aren't actually in the right orientation in the first instance, but you can see there's graduations on the washer too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually mark the washer with a paint marker, and we shall use that as our guide. And yeah, I think it's about all we can do. We'll get the camber, we'll get the full steering geometry set up after we've got everything else done anyway. But for the moment, it just sort of kind of goes back to a point where it's at least semi-drivable, you know, so I can get it down to the place it does the tracking. Okay, so this one is more than likely incorrect, actually. That washer is actually upside down, especially given the fact that there's graduations along the top. That being said, it's just marked up for the purposes of at least going back the way it was, and then we can kind of assess the situation then when I'm putting it back. I'll probably just put it back up the other way. But that one's done. You can see I have the bolt head marked as RF for right front, and then the other one right rear. So at least the bolts are going back in the same place. No point in marking up the washers if you're not going to put the bolts back in the same place. And you can see the marks up there as well. A paint marker is a very useful thing to have in your toolbox, folks. Alright, so I'm going to break the torque on them here with the breaker bar, because I can tell you now these are going to be stitched. So, they are absolutely stitched. They're a bit awkward where they're situated. Now, obviously, it goes without saying, you need to make sure that if you're on a ramp or you're using jack or axle stands or whatever way you're doing this, that your pad is not on the lower wishbone. You want to have checked that a long time before this point. But yeah, and you can see as I move that, see the way the wishbone is moving in and out. That's your camber adjustment. I used to have a lovely ratcheting breaker bar and it disappeared on me and I'm so annoyed. I don't know where it went. But I feel like I might have lent it to somebody, and this is one of the reasons I don't like lending tools to people, because people don't necessarily put the same value in them as you do. Now by rights you should really be turning the nut to get this off, but it's easier said than done when it's kind of buried there a bit. But we'll get it out anyway, it'll be grand. Okay, there's that nut off. So now we can get those bolts out. I'm actually going to put that around the other way now on the bolt. So there's the bolt with its eccentric washers there now. And there is a lower wishbone removed. Just about. Come on, there you go. Now, wasn't so bad now, was it? So now all we are left with is obviously the subframe here, and then our anti-roll bar, which I will be removing, and the steering rack and its track rods, and I will be replacing the track rod ends on that as well. So they will all be getting done, and this is all kind of just nice rubberized coating on this already. I don't need to do a huge amount on that other than maybe clean it, and I'll give it a belt of a bit of kind of cleaner of some description there as well, or paint or coating or something. I don't know yet. We'll figure it out. Anyway, we'll take off the anti-roll bar in a minute now. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick on the radio, and I'm going to buzz these off and get this side disassembled as well, so both sides are in the same state. Removing the strut is actually very easy. It's literally just two nuts on the top. You undo them, and then there's a cross bolt on the bottom, and you can lift the whole thing out. It really isn't rocket science. Alright, so as you can see, I've got the passenger side done now as well, and this one did put up more of a fight. There were a few seized bolts, And the more I dig on this car, the more I find. In fairness, I'm just going to have to keep at it. There are loose bolts, there are worn out bushings, sheared bolts. I'm waiting till you see this one. This is a good one now. You'll enjoy this now. Over here is the engine mount on this side, and you can see the nut is loose. I didn't touch that. That was already loose. But wait until you see what's on the other side. Nothing! A sheared bolt. Fantastic. And then you've got things like hoses hanging down like this. I don't know where the hell they go. Bolts that are not the same in different locations. Things like that. There's obviously a wheel arch liner or something like that that's to go in here too. So we're going to have to try and find out where the hell that goes. But you know what? This is the reason why I took the whole front end of the car apart like this. I mean, all the front suspension and brakes, because I don't know what I'm going to find as I progress. So we just have to keep on going. Before I rebuild the suspension, I'm going to have to do something about that sheared bolt. I don't know how the hell I'm going to do it, but anyway, right, it is what it is. We just have to keep on moving. Alright, so why stop at the front? Let's give the rear suspension the same treatment and get all this gubbins out of the way, and we'll see what we're dealing with. At least we can kind of inspect things as we go. Now, I did think about taking the whole rear subframe out of this car, but I'm not going to go down that route, because then where do you stop? You know, so I'll take off the upper and lower wishbones, the hub, and the drive shaft seem to be okay. Take out just the shock strut, obviously, as well, and the anti-roll bar, and we'll stop at that point, and then at least we can kind of dicky everything up and give it a clean and a coat of paint. What I'm going to have to do is just throw a tarpaulin down on the ground here and just try and do something by way of cleaning the underside of the car. It's going to be a bit of fun, but there you go. That's what needs to be done. Alright, so onto the back suspension, and we need to start by taking off this caliper and then get the disc out of our way, and then we'll be able to start undoing the suspension components, starting with the top of the shock strut. So let's get the handbrake cable off now, and so far as I can tell, you literally just need to lever it back and unhook it. So I think we'll go with that concept first of all and see how we go. No, I'm doing this all wrong. Hang on a second. If I just undo these lock nuts, I'll be able to unhook it there, and then it'll just come out the other way. They don't seem to use 13mm bolts on this car too often. Most of the lubricant I'm using is GT85. The jury's out with me as to which is better, this or WD-40. I suppose WD-40 is kind of well recognised, but its main purpose is water displacement, but it is an oil as well, you know, and that's the bit people seem to forget. There we go. That's coming good now. Okay, so now we should be able to unscrew this sufficiently to get it unhooked from. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so now that comes out of the slot, and then push this forward. We need to pull the. There we go. Okay, so there's our handbrake cable removed. Not too big a job really. Once you actually put your thinking cap on and look at how it's supposed to go, and now we can get our brake line disconnected. And if I remember correctly, that is an 11mm. No, it's 12. There we go. I have a drip tray on the ground there to catch any brake fluid that comes out of it. Okay, just leave that hang down there. I'll figure out what the story is with those flexible brake lines after I've got the new ones, because I don't know exactly what way they're supposed to be removed. Do they come off the block up there? I imagine they do just come off that block there, but they do, grand, happy days, but I'll leave them be for the moment. They're not in my way now. Alright, so there are two 14mm bolts need to be removed to take the caliper off. And once we've got the caliper off, the disc should just come off. There's sometimes retaining screws actually to hold the disc in place, but they're not present on this car, which is not all that surprising at this point in time. Alright, there's the caliper and disc off. Okay, so fortunately there are no ball joints or anything like that to contend with on the back of the car here, so we're just going to get the breaker bar on and just crack loose a few of the bolts that are holding on the various components, and then we can kind of take out the suspension spring and go work our way back from there. If I knew where my breaker bar is gone. Ah, there it is. So there's a bolt here going into the shock, holding the bottom of the shock in place, and I really, really do not want to strip this one out because it is there's no nut on the other end. It's into the threaded hole. So anyway, it's loose, so we should be able to get it out. There we go. Now there's the shock absorber bottom bolt out. So I'm going to take off the this lad here as well. See if okay, that came off quite easy. Doesn't mean the other end is going to come out easily. All right, I'm just kind of working this bolt back and forth, just in the hope that it will cooperate. Try and get a bit of schmoo in there. That's going to do a whole lot for us, but all right, okay. So now let's get the impact going on it and see if we can buzz that out. Yeah, that'll come out. Won't be left with much choice. It's hammer time. You can't touch this. What you can do sometimes, and it might seem counterproductive, but if you spray the bolt with a bit of your choice of lubricant, knock it back in, you can get the lubricant spread out inside a bit. Just like that. There you go, see? That wasn't too bad. So that's the bottom removed. So now we need to take off our nut there and the center hub nut, because we're going to be taking the drive shaft off. Then we can undo this one here, and then that should be the hub out of the way, and we can start concerning ourselves with the rest of the suspension. Now you will see here that there's an indent in the shaft, and that's that the end of the nut is kind of keened into it. And we're going to unpeen it, which will allow us to turn the nut. It is a 30mm nut. Oh, bugger. I forgot that was going to be the case. I should have, yeah, hang on a second now. Need to get another, something or other for holding it. Put up a fight, isn't it? Look, if we have to take the drive shaft off, we will, but I still want to get this nut released. Is it a left-hand thread is the other thing? Sometimes they are. I don't know if it is now or not, but look, we'll find out. We'll give it another go. We'll try the impact gun. Sometimes the shock will remove it. There you go. Well, I made that needlessly difficult for myself. So now the drive shaft will remove. When we get this out, the whole thing will... See, I don't want to remove the shaft from the differential, because all of the diff oil will pour out and all that, and it's getting into a whole range of issues we can avoid at this point in time. So now this nut here is a 14, so we should just buzz that off at the impact, shall we? I know not all of the nuts, the bolts I'm using are, I know that all the sockets I'm using are impact sockets, but I don't have a full set of impact sockets, so we'll just use what I have. There we go, there's the hub off. Happy days. That wasn't too difficult. That's been off relatively recently, just copper grease on the splines. Alright, so now we can get our anti-roll bar drop link out of the way, and we can get the 2 bolts that are holding the lower wishbone out, and then we can take our upper wishbone out as well, which is also being held up here with 2 bolts. So yeah, we'll get that done now. Final positioning of the anti-roll bar, or the lower wishbone, will be found by the position of the strut, so so you don't end up winding up the bushes too much. Well, that put up right. As I said, I'm putting all of the nuts back on their respective homes so that I can find the bloody things again when it comes to reassembling. Okay, so as is the same on the front, I have marked up the lower bolts to go through the lower wishbone. It came out surprisingly easy. As I said, when I'm assembling everything, all of the suspension components will be greased up again, and they'll be all inspected and all that as I'm kind of inspecting them as I'm removing them, but then once they're clean, it'll be a different story. Yourself. There we go. Ah, come on. Yeah. I am actually thinking about getting a pneumatic impact gun as well. Like one of the big proper Ingersoll Rand ones or something like that. That it would turn the car over if a bolt were to come loose. Okay. So now everything should be free. And the wishbone is kind of staying put, so get a pry bar and pull it down and out of the way. Oh, maybe don't need a pry bar. Oh, there we go. There we are. Now, one wishbone removed. Happy days. Alright, I'm just trying to get the upper wishbones off now, and as you can imagine, they're putting up a bit of a fight. So, Jesus. There we go. I know some people would be kind of like, oh, if it's not moving, just leave it where it is. It's grand. It's been there for the last 30 years. But see, that's exactly the reason why I want to remove it. Because if it's been there for 30 years, it's going to need some sort of attention, isn't it? It's mad to believe this car is actually 31 years old. It's the car with the most sophisticated suspension setup I've ever worked on, to tell you the truth. Particularly on the back end. The front is... I've worked on cars with double wishbones on the front, but not on the back. I've shown my inexperience in certain respects there, but that's all right, isn't it? All right, so there's our upper wishbone out. Okay, so last thing to do then is just to remove the shock strut and anti-roll bar drop link, and I'll get them done now in a little while. What I'm going to do is actually take all the other components off the other side, and then that means when I lower the car down I can get both shock struts off at the same time, because I need to access them from inside the boot. But yeah, it's all coming together, so we'll keep going. Or should I say coming apart. I've hit a bit of a snag here on this side. I cannot get the drive shaft out of the rear hub, and I have tried bloody everything. Well, short of heat, but the problem is that I was whacking the back of this trying to get it off, and I'm after splitting the CV joint now as well. So I think I'm going to just need to bite the bullet and get a new CV joint. If I can get this apart, then I won't have to get another rear hub, but if I can't, then I'm going to have to get the drive shaft and hub assembly as one component, and see if I can well, maybe get a second hand one or something along those lines. Yeah, anyway, look, I'm going to split the split the drive shaft up at the differential here and take it off there. I was trying to avoid having to do that, but what choice have I got really at this stage? And then that'll get this out of the way and we can get it over onto the bench and see what we can do with it there. Maybe just heat the Jesus out of it and see what happens. In the meantime, anyway, I'm going to get the shock struts out there now, and we can call the back pretty much done. I can get the I'll get the drop links off camera as well. Here we go. I'm absolutely mystified as to where the other nut went. Like, I know it fell out of the socket, but there's not really that many places it can go. It should be up in there, but oh, don't tell me that's it down there. Oh, I found it. Right, that's going to be great fun trying to get out of there. Another little task to do. Okay folks, I'm going to leave it there for this video. There is plenty more to be done, obviously. So next on the agenda is to try and sort out that rear hub assembly with the drive shaft stuck in it. Clean everything up, give it a lick of paint, and change the ball joints, stuff like that, and then we can kind of work through the car. And there is going to be a lot of work still left to do in this. I'm actually strongly considering removing the engine and gearbox as an assembly, because given the stuff I've found in the suspension end of things, I'd be questioning how things were done in there, especially given how the wiring harness has been routed and stuff like that. I think I'm best off just pulling it all out and going through it in my own way and making sure that everything's right. At least it'll be peace of mind. So join me along the way anyway, folks, and please do hit the subscribe button before you go, and hit the like button if you like what you saw, and I'll keep you updated, and I'll chat to you soon. Thanks for watching. I got it out, by the way. Kind of had to rain blows down upon it after clamping it in the vise, but the end of this is a bit mushroomed. I'm hoping I can tidy it up. If not, I just have to get a new stub shaft. But anyway, look, it's not the end of the world. At least the hub is all right now.